Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life so subtle, so deeply personal, that they pass unnoticed by the world, but within, they signal a profound shift, a movement not of the body, but of the soul. When these signs appear, you are not just changing, you are ascending. Today, I share with you 5 signs, 5 whispers of transformation, that signal your inner vibration is rising. When your vibration begins to increase, something profound shifts in your relationship with solitude. You no longer seek the company of others as a way to distract yourself from the echo of your own thoughts. The silence that once felt hollow now begins to feel full of presence, full of insight, full of you. You begin to understand that being alone is not the same as being lonely. In fact, solitude becomes sacred, a quiet temple in which your truest self begins to speak. In the absence of noise, you hear the gentle murmurs of your soul, the forgotten dreams, the buried wounds, the quiet hopes. You sit with them, not to judge or fix, but to simply listen. For perhaps the first time in your life, you are truly listening, not to the world, but to yourself. The desire for constant connection, for validation from others, begins to fade. Not because you no longer care, but because you have tapped into a deeper well of affirmation, one that comes from within. You realize that the self you meet in solitude is not something to escape, but something to rediscover. You are not afraid of your own company anymore. You begin to enjoy it. You begin to trust it. This is not the solitude of retreating out of bitterness or pain. It is not the solitude of the wounded heart that hides in fear. This is a chosen solitude, a sacred pause, a turning inward not to escape the world, but to find your true place within it. You become more selective with where you invest your energy, not out of pride, but because you now understand its value. There is also a growing comfort with the unknown. In solitude, the external certainties fall away, and you are left with the deeper questions. Who am I beneath the roles I play? What do I value when no one is watching? What is trying to emerge from within me? These are not easy questions, but they are essential. And in the quiet, you begin to sense the answers not as loud declarations, but as subtle feelings, gut instincts, a knowing beyond words. And so, solitude no longer feels like absence. It becomes presence, clear, open, undistracted presence. It becomes the ground from which your intuition speaks, the space where you realign with your purpose, the mirror in which your higher self is reflected. You begin to realize that many people are surrounded by others and still feel lonely. But you, in your solitude, feel connected to yourself, to the world, to something far greater. This is the quiet evidence of rising vibration. It cannot be measured, only felt, and once felt, it cannot be forgotten. As your inner vibration begins to rise, you notice a subtle but powerful shift. The space between stimulus and response begins to widen. What once pierced you now simply passes through. You still feel, of course. You are not numb, but your reactions are no longer dictated by the raw edge of emotion. Instead, they are tempered by awareness. You find yourself less easily triggered. Words, actions, glances that once sparked fire now evoke a pause. Not because you've become indifferent or cold, but because you've begun to witness rather than react. You are no longer living entirely from the surface of your consciousness, where ego and defense live. You are operating from deeper waters now, still, watchful, discerning. Instead of snapping back, you begin to ask different questions. Why did that bother me? What old wound did this touch? Is this truly about them? Or is it something unresolved within me? You start tracing the emotional thread back to its source, and in doing so, you begin to unweave old patterns that have governed you for years, perhaps even a lifetime. It is not that you no longer feel anger, sadness, or fear. On the contrary, you feel them more clearly, but now they are no longer in control. They rise and fall like waves, but you are the shore. You can observe their coming and going without losing yourself in the tide. This detachment is not denial, it is mastery. It is what happens when you move from being ruled by emotion to being in relationship with it. You begin to see others more compassionately too. Where before you might have judged or condemned, now you sense their own pain hiding beneath the surface. You understand that most people are speaking through the filter of their own hurt. Their projections, their criticisms, their anger, it's rarely about you. You stop taking things personally because you know who you are, and that self-knowledge acts as a shield. Reflection becomes your instinct. You no longer seek to win at every disagreement or defend every perceived attack. You start to value peace over pride. Silence becomes a powerful response, not out of weakness but out of wisdom. And when you do choose to speak, your words are intentional, spoken not to wound but to reveal. This shift is not loud. It's not dramatic. You don't need to announce it to the world, but inside, you know something has changed. You feel steadier, calmer, more rooted in yourself. The emotional storms that once tossed you about now pass with less damage. You've learned to anchor yourself within, and all of this happens quietly. No one may notice that you didn't explode when they expected you to. No one may thank you for the grace you offered in place of retaliation. But you notice, you feel the difference, and it is a sign, clear and undeniable, that something sacred is unfolding within you. This is what it means to grow, not to escape conflict, but to rise above it, not to suppress emotion, but to understand its language, and through that understanding, you reclaim your power, not the power to control others, but the power to master yourself. And that is where the true vibration of the soul begins to hum, calm, deep, and clear. As your inner vibration rises, something curious begins to happen. Your relationship with the world around you changes. Life, once viewed through a flat and literal lens, starts to shimmer with hidden layers. You begin to feel a pull, gentle but persistent, toward the symbolic. The ordinary becomes infused with quiet mystery. A bird on your windowsill, a word repeated in different conversations, a sudden gust of wind just as a thought arises. All of it begins to feel meaningful, as if life itself is whispering to you. Your dreams become more vivid. Not just fleeting night visions, but entire landscapes filled with messages. You awaken not just remembering them, but sensing they are trying to tell you something. You start to look for patterns, for symbols, for metaphors hidden in the surreal fabric of your subconscious. A stranger in a dream might feel more familiar than people you've known for years. A recurring image might stir something ancient in you, an emotion with no clear source yet deeply real. And it's not only in dreams that this deepening begins. You start noticing the world as a mirror. Events, people, even random encounters feel charged with meaning. You begin to understand that what you see outside is often reflecting something inside. A conversation overheard, a line from a book you weren't even planning to read, a memory that resurfaces out of nowhere, all start weaving together like threads of a hidden tapestry guiding you home. This pull towards symbolism is not escapism. It is not about superstition or fantasy. It is about depth. You realize the literal world, while important, is only part of the story. Beneath every surface lies an inner resonance. You begin to feel drawn to ancient texts, archetypes, mythology, and spiritual traditions, not because you need answers, but because they speak a language your soul remembers. It's like tuning into a forgotten frequency, and suddenly everything hums with recognition. You may find yourself journaling more, not just to record your day, but to decode it. You might start writing down your dreams or meditating on a single image that keeps appearing. You begin to ask, what does this mean for me? What is this trying to reveal? You are no longer content with surface-level interpretation. You want to understand the soul of the experience. Art, music, poetry. All of it becomes more potent. A painting moves you to tears for reasons you can't explain. A song feels like it was written from a hidden part of your own being. You begin to value feeling over fact, intuition over logic, mystery over certainty. You are no longer satisfied with explanations that are neat but empty. You crave the living truth that pulses beneath it all. In this space, the imagination is no longer just a tool of creativity. It becomes a vehicle of inner truth. It helps you navigate the unseen, the symbolic, the sacred. You begin to realize that meaning is not given. It is revealed to those willing to look deeper. And now, you are one of those people. Your inner eyes are opening. This shift is quiet, personal, and sometimes even disorienting. Not everyone around you will understand it. Some may say you're reading too much into things, but inside, you know better. this is not about fantasy, it's about alignment. You are learning to see the world the way the soul sees it, not as a collection of disconnected objects, but as a living, breathing conversation between spirit and form. This, too, is a sign. A rising vibration does not just bring peace or insight, it brings vision. And through that vision, you begin to walk through life with deeper reverence, with greater curiosity, and with the unshakable sense that everything, yes, everything, is here to teach you something about who you truly are. As your inner vibration begins to shift, something delicate but undeniable starts to occur in your relationships. You begin to feel distance, not out of bitterness or conflict, but as if an invisible cord is gently loosening. People who once felt essential begin to drift quietly to the background of your life. You may still care for them, still carry memories of shared laughter or pain, but something no longer aligns. The old rhythm is gone. It can be confusing at first. You might ask yourself, why does this connection feel heavy now? Why do conversations feel forced or shallow? You are not judging them, nor do you wish them harm, but the energy no longer flows as it once did. And over time, you come to understand, as you rise in vibration, your soul subtly changes its frequency, and not every connection can rise with you. Some relationships were rooted in the parts of you that are now fading, your need for approval, your unresolved wounds, your old identity. These connections were never false, but they belong to a version of you that no longer exists, and as that version dissolves, so too does the bond, not in cruelty, but in quiet evolution. You might feel guilt at first. You may try to revive the closeness, reach out, explain yourself, but the truth is, there is no blame. This is not about superiority or abandonment. It is about resonance. Like musical notes that once harmonized, your frequencies now move in different directions. And that is okay. It is the natural unfolding of growth. As the old falls away, you begin to notice something remarkable. New relationships start to enter your life, almost as if summoned by your soul. You meet people who feel immediately familiar, though you've never met. Conversations go deeper, faster. You don't need to explain yourself. There is a shared language, a mutual recognition, an energetic alignment. These new connections are not built on the mask, but on the mirror. They reflect your emerging self, your values, your vision. You feel safe to be fully you, not the curated, cautious you, but the raw, evolving, real you. These relationships don't demand you to shrink or perform. They invite you to expand. And sometimes it's not even about new people, but old connections renewed. Certain relationships that once felt dormant now awaken, not because they have changed, but because you have. A friend who once felt distant suddenly speaks your new language. A relative you struggled with now feels softer, more open. The energy has shifted, the timing is right. You begin to understand that relationships are not fixed. They are living, breathing dynamics, shaped by the state of your own being. As you heal, your connections either deepen or dissolve, not as a punishment or reward, but as a reflection of your internal state. This process can be lonely at times. There may be moments of grieving the past, even as you step into the future. But underneath the sadness is a quiet trust that what is leaving is making space for what is meant to arrive. The garden of your life is being tended. Some flowers have withered, but new seeds are sprouting. You stop clinging, you stop chasing, you begin to allow, and in that surrender, your relationships become more truthful, more intentional, more sacred. You are no longer building them out of fear, but from alignment. And that is one of the clearest signs your vibration is rising, not just in how you feel, but in how you connect. You begin to understand that love, real love, does not bind, it harmonizes. It doesn't demand you to stay the same, it celebrates who you are becoming. As your inner vibration begins to rise, one of the most powerful and sacred shifts occurs in your relationship with your own darkness. Parts of yourself you once feared, denied, or buried, the anger, the shame, the jealousy, the grief, no longer appear as enemies to be silenced. Instead, they begin to reveal themselves as teachers. You stop running, you stop numbing, you stop pretending that the shadow does not exist. Instead, you begin to turn toward it, not with panic, but with curiosity. You sit with it, breathe into it, and slowly, courageously, you begin to listen. What once felt like a threat now feels like a message waiting to be understood. In this space, you begin to realize something that changes everything. The darkness within you is not evil. It is unintegrated. It is pain that was never held, fear that was never named, needs that were never met. It is the child within you who is silenced, judged, or rejected, and who, in silence, learned to scream in subtle ways, through self-sabotage, through emotional outbursts, through emptiness that no achievement could ever fill. You realize that healing is not about banishing the darkness, but about embracing it, gently, honestly, fully. The pain you feel is not a flaw in your design, but a signal. It points to what needs love. And love, real love, does not avoid or erase, it illuminates. It brings light not to destroy the dark, but to understand it, to hold it, to bring it home. There may be moments when it feels overwhelming, when old memories surface, when buried emotions rise like storms. But something within you has changed. You no longer collapse into fear. You know now that you can endure these waves, that they are not here to drown you, but to cleanse you, to free you. Each time you face your shadow, it grows smaller, not because it is disappearing, but because you are growing bigger. You begin to see that your greatest strength was hidden in your wounds, that your deepest wisdom came not from your victories, but from the places you thought had broken you. You stop judging your past, you stop trying to rewrite it, you learn to hold your scars not with shame, but with reverence. They are proof that you survived, that you felt deeply, that you were human, and that you are evolving. And then, almost silently, another truth begins to bloom. When you accept your own darkness, you also stop fearing the darkness in others. You no longer need people to be perfect. You no longer demand masks or performances. You can sit with another person's grief, their anger, their fear, without needing to fix it or flee from it. You can hold space, because you have learned to hold space for yourself. This is what true inner power feels like. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of peace in the middle of it. Not control over life, but harmony with it. Not the illusion of perfection, but the courage of authenticity. And in this space, your vibration rises. Not because you have become light, but because you have become whole. You are no longer afraid of what lives in the dark, because you have entered it, walked through it, and returned with gold. And that gold, that deep and quiet wisdom, is the light you now carry, not to blind the world, but to gently remind others that their own darkness holds treasure too.